Welcome back to the D1Softball podcast, part of the Learfield Family and Varsity Network. I'm your host, Jenna Becerra, with our guest co-host today, Eric Lopez, the co-host of our other podcast, In the Circle, and D1Softball bracketologist, writer, and man of many hats, Eric Lopez. We are so excited to have you.
I'm excited to make my D1Softball regular season debut here on the show. I know I've appeared during the conference tournament in the postseason, but
that's right.
A regular season one. I've just crossed that off the bucket list here. Good to see you, Jenna.
Yeah, good to see you too. And we did get to see each other in person in Clearwater. We're back to virtually, but you know what? We'll take it. Better than nothing.
Yes, and you've been busy out there in Mary Nutter, out west, shooting a bunch of interviews. Yeah, I mean, we're living the life. We're living the dream.
We are. And you have too, because you've been doing quite a bit of broadcasting. Yes. Maybe give everybody some background on that piece of everything that you do too.
Well, I call games at UCF in Orlando. I have ESPN Plus. I've called already 25 games this month. Got another 6 or 7 this week. So if my voice sounds a little hoarse, that's why. Because I've talked a lot, probably too much perhaps for others. The good news is Alex Bowers is usually with me on that. So that makes the broadcast very listenable on that. But yeah, so along with doing the podcast and I'm doing the broadcast there and covered, of course, I was with you, as you said, in Clearwater covering that tournament. So it's been a busy first few weeks, but it's exciting. But it's lots to talk about, Jenna.
Ooh, plenty to talk about. And just for the record, can you let everyone know how many seasons that you've been broadcasting at UCF?
So you basically want me to admit how old? I mean, I'm old.
Well,
it's my 20th season calling the UCF softball.
See, that's a big deal. That's why I needed to make sure we shouted it out.
Mission accomplished. My first World Series I ever watched was Taryn Moat against Monica Abbott. I bring it up to both of them all the time.
It's a great one, first of all. I mean, that's going to get you hooked, and no wonder you've stuck with us ever since.
Correct.
Well, before we jump in, quick reminder, on the go and want to stay connected to live college sports anywhere in the country, download the free Varsity Network app available on Apple and Android. With new features this season, it's easier than ever to listen live and keep up with your favorite teams and podcasts. So don't miss a moment. Get the Varsity Network app now. And I'd say listening to radio is definitely a key, sort of alternative for everybody with so many different games going on. So highly recommend.
That's where I started, was radio. That was my first love, if you will, in the sports medium landscape. So it's very good. And I know there's a lot of people that listen to us, Jenna. I heard about it in Clearwater. I hear it every time I'm in the field. So I always get asked the question, when are you having Jenna back on? I'm like, whatever she has 5 minutes, which is rare.
Well, we always make time for each other, though. We'll make it work, I'm sure. And if not, we're definitely all going to be back together on the lives that we do, especially in the postseason. So everybody can definitely look forward to that for sure.
Yes, we'll be yelling at each other. It'll be great.
Yelling at each other, taking forever. It's great. Everyone enjoys it, though. So for today's lineup, we will talk through the new top 25 rankings, give some thoughts on week 3, and head into our interview with Emma Mazzarone for Virginia Tech. We're super excited about that one. And then, of course, our plays of the week and our win and whiff of the week. Eric, you ready?
I'm as ready as I ever will be, Jenna.
Fair enough. We'll take it. We'll start with the top 25. Before we even dig too deep, I just want to say and put it out there how hard it is at this point in the season to rank teams nationally. To figure out who 1 through 25 makes sense when only 3 weeks of play have actually happened. It's very difficult. And so you and I are, of course, submitting our ballots, but so is a whole group of folks for our particular rankings. So it always seems to create conversation, which is great for the sport.
It is. Just for the record, me and Jenna got the ballots correct, the votes right. If you disagree with anything, it was not us. It was the other people that voted. It's not us, clearly. But listen, the week after Nutter is clearly one of the hardest ones because of so many teams are going to take losses at Mary Nutter. It's trying to quantify, how do you judge that? If a team goes 3-2 or 2-3 at Mary Nutter, but you're facing top competition, how do you evaluate that against maybe somebody else somewhere else that maybe doesn't face that competition? That's the thing that I hope fans understand. They probably won't But that is the challenge. It's not as simple as, hey, you just write them down. There's a lot to take that goes into it.
Yeah, watching games versus looking at a box score, very different too. You see certain things, like there's just so many factors that go into it. So with all that said, let's take a look at what this top 25 looks like this week. So Tennessee staying at number 1 back-to-back weeks. They're still undefeated. Also back-to-back for Texas at number 2 and Texas Tech at number 3 in our poll. In terms of the top 5, number 4, Florida, and number 5, OU swapped. But for the most part, the top 5 have remained the same teams, even if there have been some minor adjustments. The biggest movers to keep an eye on, Virginia Tech is up from number 24 last week to number 12. So that is a massive jump. That was after they beat number 11 Georgia twice. UCLA is also back in the top 10 after an undefeated Mary Nutter, which is very, very hard to do. The first time they've done it since 2022. Oklahoma State now in the top 15. Virginia in the top 20, both of them after undefeated weekends as well. And then in terms of drops, Texas A&M and Duke both dropped 4 slots after 3-loss and 4-loss weekends, respectively. One thing to keep in mind as well, a couple of newbies to the poll this season, number 23, Grand Canyon, and number 25, Penn State. Allison Wanacre was our National Freshman of the Week last week, and back-to-back Big Ten Freshman of the Week as well. And then falling out of the poll, who are still receiving votes, Washington and UCF. So with all that being said, 5 conferences represented, 11 from the SEC, 5 from the ACC, 4 from the Big 12 and Big 10 each, and 1 from the Mountain West. It's actually Grand Canyon's first year in the conference, so they are representing on that level. Oh, all right. That was a lot to go through, but that's kind of a snapshot of what this looks like this week. Eric, what are kind of your gut reactions when you see that?
First of all, magnificent job explaining that, because I would not have been able to explain it that very well. I want people to bring up, for example, Virginia. I'm glad you highlighted Virginia Tech moving up 12 spots, because there might be people, I know there's people in the audience saying, wait a minute, Georgia's still ranked ahead of Tech. Yeah. Remember, Georgia had a huge lead on Tech going into last week. I want to say, 10, 12 spots. You mentioned it there. So that's why it just kind of worked out that way, where Georgia, you look at the point total and everything with previous weeks. That's why Virginia Tech is still slightly behind Georgia. I don't obsess too much about the head-to-head like some do, because eventually it's all going to cancel each other. That's going to play itself out. But I do wanted to bring that up for them. And congrats to Penn State. I saw Penn State play. Maybe they're the reason why UCF's not ranked, although I would say both teams should have been ranked. But Penn State, what an offense here, Jenna, with Brooke Klosowicz, all Big Ten performer, Allison Wanacre, you mentioned, top to bottom. This is a talented offense. And they have now Bridget Namath healthy with a deeper pitching staff for Clarissa Crowell. I think this is Clarissa Crowell's best team at Penn State. They made the regionals in 24 based on pitching. Now they have the offense. And if Bridget Namath could come close to what she pitched in 2024, I think Penn State's a sleeper in the Big Ten Conference. They could be last year's kind of Ohio State, where you're like, wait a minute, who's there? Who's in the top 4, top 5 Big Ten? I think Penn State could be for real with that offense.
And you actually called the game in which they beat UCF, and UCF won all the rest of their games over the weekend. So to your point, you could make arguments, right? Especially at that portion of the top 25. That's why so many different teams are receiving votes too, is because of that. But so you got to see them in action. And that, I think, also, that helps us sort of decide, okay, what makes sense for our personal ballots, at least. And then whatever shakes out from there.
No doubt. And they've got it all. They've got the balance. They scored over 56 runs in 5 games, ruled Ohio and Notre Dame during that tournament. They were dominant. They're going to go to Tennessee. We'll talk about, I'm sure that's going to be a challenge for them. But I think Penn State, so much focus on Washington and some of the other Big Ten teams. Nobody's talking about Penn State. If you look at their Big Ten schedule, they open at Oregon. They finish at home against Nebraska. Otherwise, in between, it's pretty manageable. They don't play UCLA. They don't, on the schedule. So I'm telling you, Penn State, I think, is for real. I think Crowell has done a great job building that program up there. And it's no longer just a football/volleyball school. They're into softball now, Jenna.
Yeah, and we love to see it. We want to see that coast to coast, and it's great. It's great growth. Washington drops out in terms of some Big Ten representation And then Penn State jumps right in. So there's still 4 teams representing that conference. And you touched on something that I think fans have been asking too. So if we look at our fan questions, the first one is sort of around this Virginia Tech, Georgia situation. Why is Georgia ahead of Virginia Tech after Virginia Tech swept the Bulldogs? You touched on some things that I think are relevant. And I do want to say, I think this is a fair question. I mean, this is a Virginia Tech team that's 4-0 against ranked SEC teams, right? Not only did they beat Georgia twice this weekend, but they beat South Carolina twice in opening weekend. And we're going to get into that more in today's interview with Emma Mazzarone. And also, if you take a look at the first DSR rankings of the season, they just came out from our partners at 643. It's like RPI. We've talked about it on the show before, but to remind everyone, but it's specifically for Diamond Sports. And now it's been improved as an additional source of data for rankings and NCAA tournament selection. So come time, Eric's going to be taking a peek at that as our resident bracketologist. It is a little bit early. RPI is not out yet, for example, but for DSR, Georgia's at number 10 and Virginia Tech's at number 11, for example. So it's like, there are so many different factors, and it's still so early, to your point, Eric, that head-to-head is definitely a factor, but it's not the only factor. And we'll get into, are we going to rank Long Beach State above OU because they beat them head-to-head, right? So, you have to take those things into account, although it was twice. There is something about beating someone twice.
Yeah, in Athens. And keep in mind, Georgia just came off the great week in Clearwater, where you and I saw them up close. They jumped up high. Virginia Tech had a tough that weekend where they lost to Charlotte, who's very good, and Michigan State, I believe. So that dropped them a little bit. So there was a gap. They made up a lot of gap. I think the focus should not be why is Virginia Tech behind Georgia. Really, if I'm a Hokie fan, I'm thinking, oh, look, you moved up 12 spots. That's unusual. That's not, you did get rewarded for winning those 2 games. So it's not like you were ignored on that. It's just, again, it's just part of the voting process that it just kind of happens sometimes from time to time.
And we touched on this a little bit earlier, but it's tough to rank when there's not always consistency, because it's really hard to be consistent, especially when you're facing good competition. Teams will get ranked wins, but then they'll lose to unranked teams, right? It's like, okay, so how do we balance that out? What do we do with that? And that's when, some of the analysis comes in from everybody and the opinions. But I think Virginia Tech certainly given them love after where they've started.
And again, it's a long season. It'll play itself out. And and I want to mention this too, because it's interesting. People always ask this every year. The rankings, our polls, as much as, Jenna, we like to think we're important, has no bearing, does not matter when it comes to the committee seating selection process. So in fact, the DSR is something that the fans will have to get used to, because as you mentioned just moments ago, that is a new element that the committee can use this year, along with the RPI and the metrics that they use when picking the field of 64 in a year, by the way, the first year where they're going to seed 32 teams.
Right. And like I said, we will be relying on Eric, our resident bracketologist, when the time comes for that, who he nails it every year. I'll knock on wood.
Yeah, don't jinx it. A lot of, sacrifice sleep is the key. That's the second.
It's that time of the year for us. It's the most wonderful time of the year. But we also had some more questions from fans. One is around Alabama. Why isn't Alabama higher? They beat a ranked team twice. That was Florida State this past weekend. And Florida, for example, who's in the top 5, they haven't faced any ranked opponents yet. So this is interesting too. I think you could easily make the argument for Alabama to be higher. They're number 4 in DSR right now. Again, still early, but that's where they're at. They're 14-0 without any quote unquote bad losses or losses where, oh, wow, they should have on paper taken those. I will say those 2 games against Florida State were the first and only that they've had against teams that are currently ranked or receiving votes. They don't have any this upcoming weekend either to wrap up the preseason. So I'm personally curious to see, okay, what are they going to do when they face those teams again? So SEC starts in a couple weeks. They open with Ole Miss, but then after that, it's Arkansas. I really have my eye on that particular series, for example, too, to see, okay, what do they do in this situation? Florida, on the other hand, is number 2 in DSR. They have won 19 games straight. They're still undefeated. It's not easy to win 19 games no matter who you're playing. Same thing goes for them, though. For me, I'm looking at they're playing UCLA at the Judy Garland Classic this weekend. That's going to be their first big test. So both have handled their business so far. Alabama has already set the tone, like, okay, like we faced a ranked team and we took care of our business there too. I just think there's still more to be seen for both.
I think there's more to be seen for both. Florida has beaten Michigan and South Florida, by the way. There were 2 NCAA tournament teams. Let's not act like they haven't played anybody. I think that's a misconception there. And also, Florida had a head start on Alabama. I think they were at a 6, 7, 8 spot ahead. So Alabama has chipped away, but sometimes Florida hasn't lost. I think it's simple as that. And if a team doesn't lose, it's hard to drop a team when they don't lose. Would be my guess on the answer, as good as Alabama been, and they're inside the top 10. I do find that interesting. And again, it's early, like you mentioned, but the DSR even ranks Florida. And that DSR, there's no human element into it. I would encourage people to check that out. They took into a lot of metrics in there. So, which is why I'm excited that the committee is actually going to use the DSR, because I'm a fan of the DSR. So, because it takes some elements out of the equation that you might be questioning, like, why are we using that? But it's going to play itself out once we get to SEC play. I think we're going to learn a lot about Florida this weekend when they go out west, which we'll talk about later. But look, Alabama's really good. I picked them to get to the World Series before the season, Jenna. This is, I think, the best Murph team that he's had there in a while, and I credit to the assistant coach, Caleb Breaux. They're faster. They're more athletic. They've got Moten and Brisky inside pitching there. They got a deeper pitching staff. Look, nobody's doubting Alabama. They're going to be in the mix all year, but Florida's very good too, and Florida's been to the World Series the last 2 years. Rothrock's throwing the ball well, and they still got a really good offense.
Well, and to your point, Alabama has moved ahead of Florida State, since they did beat them, right, into the top 8 in the rankings right now, which in theory, the top 8, okay, that's who we're saying might go to the World Series at this point in the season if we had to pick today. And so in comparison to, in terms of opponents, you look at like a Nebraska, they have 4 losses compared to both of these teams, Alabama and Florida, who are undefeated, but they've played 11 games against teams who are currently ranked or receiving votes, right? Whereas again, Alabama, 2, both against Florida State, and Florida has UCLA coming up for their first one. But you said it. I think Vic Moten is in the top 10 in ERA in the country. She's got 41 strikeouts and less than 34 innings pitched. Caitlin Pelosi as well, the first freshman in program history for Alabama to throw a perfect game, the 10th overall for the program. Jocelyn Brisky is healthier. She's getting in the mix more. But the offense, I think that's what a lot of Alabama fans are excited about. The team's hitting 374. They're tied for 6th nationally with 29 home runs after this 3rd week of the season. That's nearly half of last year's total. They had 60 in total last year, long balls on the season. 3 weeks in, they've almost hit halfway. So they just need to keep doing what they're doing is the short answer. Just keep doing what you're doing, and they're going to keep moving up and keep going. Easily.
They're going to keep moving up. And I spoke to Patrick Murphy before the season in January. He's got 11 players on his roster, as he likes to describe it, as green light. In other words, they got the green light to steal a base. So they've got the power and the speed. Which was something that him and Caleb Breaux and that staff has worked on, and they're certainly successful with that. Brooke Wells was a great pickup from Houston transfer. She's got some power there in that lineup. It's a very talented Alabama team. So trust me, they're getting love here. Don't worry about being. I understand it's a rivalry. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. It'll take care of itself.
And, with that, we've been talking about some recent performances, of course. So let's just dive a little bit deeper into the Week 3 recap. So, Eric, maybe here we do start with Mary Nutter, because it was such a focal point, as it usually is every single year, one of the premier preseason tournaments. The field consisted of 30 total teams, 9 of which are ranked, plus the number 1 team in the world, Team Japan. Almost 80 games played across the board down there in Palm Springs, technically Cathedral City, but right outside of Palm Springs. And, it was great to be there in person on Saturday and Sunday and be on site and able to get to talk to players and coaches. We did post games with 11 different teams from 5 different conferences. So getting a sense of where everybody's at, not just watching them between the lines, but getting to chat with them is also helpful from my view. But I know you were keeping tabs, even though you were calling a ton of games too.
You know what jumped out? I'm curious your thoughts. You were there. A lot of offense at that tournament. I mean, there were times where I was looking at the score and I thought, was this correct? UCLA putting up 20-some runs on Auburn, putting up a big number on Cal. I don't know if it was weather related, Jenna. I mean, how do you explain all the offense you saw over there in Mary Nutter?
I wouldn't say weather related. Again, I was only there Saturday, Sunday in person because I did call Stanford, Texas before I left in the Bay Area. But I think these teams can just hit. And because they're playing so many games, some of these teams, they played 6 games on the weekend. That's a lot to ask of a pitching staff at this point in the season, going up against some of the best offensive lineups in the country. It just is. I mean, if you look at UCLA, for example, they end the weekend 15-2 against Texas A&M. But they go undefeated. I mentioned earlier from the first time since 2022. But Megan Grant is leading the nation in home runs, slugging, OPS, and walks. So people are even being careful with her too. And she's getting on base, but she's still stacking up the long ball. And then Jordan Woolery, the Bash Brothers, or Splash Brothers is how they describe it based on their Bay Area ties.
That's they're right. There you go. There you go.
Splash Brothers, but really they're bashing the ball too. But she's the Big Ten Player of the Week again, and Woolery's leading the nation in RBIs, and she hit 200 in her career this past weekend. They can swing it, right? For them, it's do they have a deep enough and stable enough staff outside of just Taylor Tinsley? But if they give up 5 runs, they're not out of the ball game. They can hit, and there are other teams who are similar in that regard too. They're just one example.
They could score wherever. They scored in Clearwater. They scored at Mary Nutter. The difference was, like you said, much better week, a big week for UCLA. They struggled in Clearwater. It wasn't pretty. And then they bounced back and had a perfect week there at Mary Nutter. I thought that was very important for them overall. I do think I just was kind of mind blown by all the offense in the tournament. It just seemed like when you look over and it's 6-4, 7-3, you have South Carolina, UCLA having another dramatic game out there. A&M still trying to find pitching. Nebraska, though, seemed to be the most, them and UCLA, very consistent. Nebraska, what Jordy Fromm brings to the table, but I thought the other players stepped up there for Nebraska over there in Nutter there, Jenna. I really thought they were just as consistent and really build from Clearwater in that win against Texas Tech.
I completely agree. I mean, they also went undefeated. The Huskers did at Mary Nutter. It's not easy to do that. That's why I keep echoing that in particular. The pitching staff continues to be an asset. Jordy Fromm is, as she should, getting a lot of attention, especially because she goes both ways, right? But Hannah Kamenzen is the Big Ten Pitcher of the Week after her performance. Alexis Jensen has been huge, particularly in Clearwater also. She really made some noise. So having those options is, as we know, proving to be very crucial for teams to win ball games because they do have the offense, but do you have the options in the circle as well? And I think they deserve credit for where they're at as a staff and a group.
I would agree with that. I think the mid-majors, how about the mid-majors on the West Coast there?
Yeah.
When you have a situation like LMU with Coach Flowers having a great season for them. They get a big win under their belt over there at Mary Nutter with a nice upset there, I believe, with Washington. Yep. Long Beach State, of course, knocking off Oklahoma. Huge national, really the biggest story of the weekend. Kendall Fernan, her first season as head coach, getting that win there. Fullerton, their win-loss record is very misleading. They're under 500. People might be wondering why are they ranked in the mid-major poll, but they played a brutal schedule. They beat Oregon.
Yep.
That's a team, too, to be watch out for there. I think the rivalry of Long Beach State, Cal State, Fullerton is back in the Big West.
Oh, for sure. And, it was a 1-run ball game in extra innings that they lost to Oklahoma, in addition to beating Oregon, for example. And Fullerton, historically, it's like they're one of the few. They're one of only 2 mid-majors ever to win a national championship. And so that sort of tradition and history is there and is a foundation for them. And it seems like, they might ruin some people's days, right? Like this season. I totally agree with that. And with LMU getting a few Power 4 wins, that also gave 150 for Tariah Flowers, their head coach, for total wins in her career. And how about Cal Baptist? They went undefeated. They beat Utah, they beat Oregon State, UCSD, Seattle, and Fresno State. So now they made it. They're number 25 in the mid-major rankings this week after a really nice outing. Again, not easy to go undefeated at Mary Nutter.
Coach Telesco was the assistant at Cal as recent as years, taking over that program at Cal Baptist and has got him playing some very high-level softball without question. And I'll tell you, the Mary Nutter produces some of the wildest games every year. Like Seattle was playing down 9-1, I saw in a game there against CSUN going into the 5th inning. They bat around, end up winning 17-9. They were 3 outs away from being run ruled, come all the way back, end up run ruling them in 6 innings. Crazy stuff. Only that happens at Mary Nutter.
100%. And St. Mary's had a somewhat similar situation. You know, they go 3-2 overall on the week. They upset San Diego State, who was receiving votes in the top 25 poll. But then to end it, they're going up against Long Beach State, who upset Oklahoma earlier that weekend. And it's back and forth, back and forth. The final score ends up being 13-10. And that's how they cap off their weekend with a win. So, you know, the California mid-majors in particular, you said it out west, California, a lot of them in SoCal, but St. Mary's a little more up north too, really representing for sure.
There's not a question about that. And they big for them, because I'm assuming, Jenna, for them, playing in Mary Nutter is like a huge deal for them. So that they circle that and come out ready to peak. So it doesn't, you know, maybe that makes a ton of sense for why they did, but they stepped up and showed a lot.
Yeah, I got to chat with St. Mary's head coach Sonia Garnett, and she said that's really what Mary Nutter's all about, because she was speaking to, you know, representing for the mid-majors a little bit. And she's like, this is what this tournament's all about, is to get that high-level competition. It's going to prepare them for their conference slates moving forward too, and it builds confidence. That's something that head coach Kendall Fern from Long Beach specifically said as well. She said past success can help build confidence. So that's how they're taking that OU upset moving forward, is using it to build their confidence, right? And trying to stack moments like that. So those 2 interviews too are actually on our social media channels at D1Softball. You can look on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube Shorts, depending on what your preferred platform is. But got to chat with them. Head coach Trya Flowers as well from LMU was another one. A few from the SEC with Ella Parker, who I call her Ella out of the Parker, and I think we all see why. She had 3 home runs in 1 game. Destiny Rodriguez from Auburn, Ariana Rhodey from South Carolina, Alina Garcia from UCLA after the walk-off against South Carolina, Amari Harper from Oregon after an extra inning win over Duke, Alexis DeBoer from Washington, Lauren Camden from Nebraska after she hit a grand slam, and then, of course, Nigeria Kennedy from Texas Tech as well. So all of those live on our social channels if you want to go take a closer look.
That's a lot. How do you still have a voice?
I don't know. Same with you. I don't know about you, but I have cough drops in my bag at all times.
Oh, I have to now. Yeah. It's non-negotiable at this point. Yeah.
Between broadcasts, just too much talking. Somehow people let us talk this much, Eric. Can you believe it?
I don't know why, but let's not tell anybody otherwise that they shouldn't. You had a heck of a week, by the way. I got to give you a salute to you, because you said it. You were at Mary Nutter Saturday, Sunday, but before that, you were out at the Bay Area covering Stanford with Texas and Arizona. I think Boise State was in that field as well. And they played in multiple fields. Yeah. And I knew that because based on your wardrobe was drastically different per day. I'll let you explain that. But that was a marquee tournament. It had obviously some storylines with the stadium. I don't want to get into that. You've addressed that enough. But Texas, to me, made a statement, I thought, with Tegan Cavan. Masterful. I know you talked to her. They looked incredible beating Arizona and Stanford like they did. I was super impressed with the defending national champions. And a tough week for Stanford, obviously. Losing to Texas, losing to Stanford, upset by Boise State. I think they were 3 outs away from losing to them twice, which gives you credit to Boise State, how good they could be as well.
Right.
I wonder, Jenna, if Stanford, all the stuff with the stadium, if it took its toll this week. I know Coach Allister never makes excuses for that competition, but I found that tournament fascinating for all the reasons, a lot of reasons. But Texas, to me, let's not forget, they're still the defending national champions.
I'm glad you brought that up, because around the country, even beyond Mary Nutter, I mean, tons of high-level matchups as well. Texas literally played a doubleheader where they beat Arizona, and then they turned around and they beat Stanford. So they get a top 20 win, then they get a top 10 win at the time. That's big time. And, you know, yes, Tennessee's in the number 1 spot, but you said it, they're the reigning champs. Tegan Cavan is outstanding. She's our national pitcher of the week for a reason, but she threw, just in that day alone, this was on Friday, 12 innings pitched, both the wins against those ranked teams. And then Katie Stewart hitting a home run in each of those games, 5 straight games, by the way. And I spoke to both of them afterwards, And they kept talking about how they're staying present amid the expectations. Because I said to Tegan, I was like, the only thing harder than winning a national championship is doing it again. So how do you manage that mentally, right? And it is a mental thing more than anything, but both of them seemed very locked in, calm. They just seem like they're in a really good place, and the team looked great.
Well, it's the confidence that they've done it. I think before it's like, can we do it? Can we do it? Do we know how to do it? I don't know. Now they've done it.
Right. Yeah.
So there's that confidence that comes with that. They know what they need to do. And I thought they made the biggest statement of the weekend with their performance. And I don't think it's an accident, Jenna, on the week where they dropped to number 2 Tennessee, and rightfully so. Tennessee should have moved up to number 1 with what they did in Clearwater. I think Texas wanted to send a message and said, hey, we're still here. We're still the champs.
Yeah. And I think that message should be, if it wasn't, that's crazy, but should be received from just around the country. Another team that is, I think, maybe flying under the radar a little bit. They were receiving votes in our top 25, but North Carolina. I mean, look at what they did. Undefeated. It's the best start in program history, 14-0 so far. They're leading the ACC as a team with multiple categories: 439 batting average, 35 home runs, 151 runs overall, and led by the transfer Emily Leggett. She leads all of those categories individually in the conference too. And, she didn't get to play all the time at Virginia Tech. You had Michelle Chatfield, Corey McMillan, some of these big hitters. And now she's, pun intended, she's Leggetting it. She is going after it. Thank you.
How long did it take you on that one there, material-wise?
Quick. I live for that.
Listen, one thing we know about North Carolina with Megan Smith-Lyon and Corey Lyon, the hitting coach, they're going to hit. They're going to score runs. Not the toughest of schedules. That's probably what's keeping them out of the top 25. Appalachian State's a good team. I think it's their first really big test they've had that last weekend against Princeton, who I think is going to win the Ivy League. But it's not at the level as, for example, Virginia Tech, who's tested themselves going to Georgia, going to South Carolina, playing Charlotte. So that's why Carolina probably is not getting ranked, is because of the schedule strength. But that doesn't mean they can't be a good ball club. And look, they made the NCAA tournament last year. They're going to score runs. I think the question is still, how is the pitching going to hold up when the competition goes up a level? We will find out soon, because believe it or not, the ACC play is here. I can't believe I'm saying that, but it is. I don't understand it, but it's just here. Time flies. So I think Carolina, that's why I think, to me, they're kind of under the radar because of that situation. But I think Virginia is a team that's even under the radar. Top 25, Joanna Harton just picked up her 300th win of her career head coach. I had her on the podcast on In the Circle on D1Softball on Monday's edition.
Yep.
And this is a veteran group, Jenna, that's hosting the ACC tournament. A lot of players that have grown up, that senior class. They've seen what the Clemsons and the Dukes and the Florida States have done, and Virginia Techs, and they want to be in that group of being in the mix to host, win an ACC title, and they have circled. They're not hiding from the fact they are hosting the ACC championships this year in Charlottesville, and they want to raise a trophy there at the end.
They've started to build confidence too. I mean, let's not forget how they beat UCLA to wrap up Clearwater last year, and that was sort of a stepping stone for this program. And when I had head coach Joe Harden on the Believe in Softball podcast, I asked her about the growth of the program overall, because she's the first one to say, it's been gradual. Like, they've been putting in the work for a while, and now it's kind of coming to fruition. She really used this metaphor of bamboo, because with bamboo in particular, the plant, you can take care of it, do everything you need to do, water it, but it takes a really long time. But then one day it shoots right up and you start to see the fruits of your labor. She equated what they're doing at Virginia to that metaphor, because now they're getting more national attention. They're in the rankings and those types of things, but this work has been put in for years at this point. But it's coming together for them, and it makes them dangerous.
100% agree. I think they're a sleeper in the ACC, which I think is as wide open of a race. You can make a case for Florida State. They're very young. Duke, you can make a case for them. The question with them, they had a hard time at Mary Nutter. The depth of their pitching staff behind Cassidy Curd, is it good enough? They have the offense. Virginia Tech has the offense. We saw them beating up on Georgia this week, and that was impressive. Pete DeBoer. I think they've got a purpose that they're playing with. Stanford, your beloved Cardinal, I'm going to put this week, I'm throwing it out just because of all the wackiness that they've been through with the stadium. I think they're going to be fine. They could hit. They have more arms. I think this ACC race is going to could come down, I think, to the final weekend.
Oh, definitely. And, Florida State picked to win it. They're the reigning regular season champs in the coaches preseason poll. And then Clemson was picked second because they're the reigning tournament champs. Stanford was picked third after that. And, Duke then in the mix in the middle. And it's going to be a really interesting race. I want to say Duke and actually Oregon in particular, they've just been a little bit confusing just in terms of consistency so far.
Which is fitting because the game they played was very confusing at Barry Nutter.
Exactly. The game that they played was was 3 hours, extra innings, was not a surprise. I did get to see that one in person. And, this time around, Oregon lost to Auburn and Fullerton, but then they beat Texas A&M, South Carolina, and Duke. So this is what I was mentioning earlier, where it's like, okay, you get ranked wins, but then you get unranked losses at the same time. Where does that leave you? Duke lost to every ranked team they played this weekend, A&M, OU, UCLA, and Oregon, all great teams. But, they had multiple ranked wins in Clearwater. So they both have more losses than you would think. The Ducks have 6, the Blue Devils have 7 on the year after this past weekend. But they're very competitive and they're playing tough teams. So it could go in different directions, but if they kind of start to polish things and bring it together, they're still going to be competitive too.
I agree. I think they're still going to be in the mix when it's all said and done. I think you equate, especially Duke, with the schedule strength that they've played. Oregon has played a tougher schedule, quite frankly, than they did all of last year in non-conference in fairness. So I think that also plays a factor with that. I think certainly if you're Coach Missy Lombardi, you're hoping that pays off once you get into Big Ten play, that toughens your team up for conference play.
Right. South Carolina and Texas A&M have had a bit of a tough go of it recently too. They both lost to Oregon, Nebraska, and UCLA. So Big Ten opponents in particular taking it to these SEC schools. But then Auburn, on the other hand, they went 4-2 on the weekend at Mary Nutter. They beat Oregon. They beat BYU from the Big 12. They beat Cal from the ACC, and they beat Fullerton from the Big West. So multiple opponents from different conferences. So getting a different look in a lot of different ways. But then they had that 23-1 loss to UCLA. That was brutal, but now they're 13-4 overall. Right. So these are some of the teams where it's like, okay, we're a little confused because there's a lot of different things happening. That's why we need more games. We have to see them over time.
It goes back to your point though. It's interesting. Are we at a point now in the sport where playing 5-6 games a weekend, you just can't, nobody can handle. Everybody says, oh, we got this deep pitching staff. Do you? Because it seems not. It seems like as the weekends go in these tournaments, the offense is just in the advantage because they've seen all the pitching, or maybe you don't see the best pitcher in a particular game. You're seeing the number 3 versus the number, it just seems more than ever, Jenna. You've played the sport. Tell me if I'm wrong. It just feels like in these settings now, the offenses are just going to be ahead of the pitching because between Clearwater and Nutter, you were at both. We were both together at Clearwater. Can you remember like a 1-0, 2-1 game? Because if there was, it was the rare exception.
Right. I think Nebraska Tech was
right.
3-2, right?
But maybe the wind played a factor in helping that. But yes, and Kennedy and Fraun, and Kennedy and
right. But two of the top pitchers in the country, right, going at it, and and very, very solid supporting cast around them. Those are not the norm in terms of pitching staffs. Yeah, I think you can look at even like Oklahoma State, for example. Ruby Malin is, the undisputed ace. Everybody knows it. And she owns that, right? Like she wants to be in that position. She threw her first career no-hitter this past weekend against Colorado State. I was like, wow, really her first one in her career? I would have assumed that she had done that before, especially as a senior. Her ERA right now is over 4, and she's the ace, right? So they've taken some lumps, but they've only lost to ranked teams at the same time. So for me, it's also like, how gritty can you be? And I do think Oklahoma State has shown some of that grit. They're going to play Nebraska this weekend 3 times in Stillwater. Not a series. There are other teams there too, but they're going to play 3 times. Ruby and Jordy are both Nebraska natives. So I think circle that one, pay attention because that's going to be fun too.
That might be a question I asked Ruby Malin on the Thursday edition of In the Circle on D1Softball podcast, because she's scheduled to be my guest, one of my 2 guests on the show. What a perfect timing, Jenna. How ironic, huh? First no-hitter. I'm like, I got to ask her about that. Like, really? First no-hitter? So, Yeah, no, you're right. Oklahoma State, Nebraska, it's always special. Ruby, obviously, with her background, with her dad playing at football in Nebraska, and the uncle as well, going up against Jordy and Nebraska. Potentially, we don't know if they're going to go head-to-head in that tournament. That's one of the marquee tournaments. There's two great tournaments we'll get to. That one and the one in Arkansas, not too far away, are two of the marquee tournaments this weekend, with Arkansas hosting Omaha, as well as hosting Charlotte, Boise State, Kansas. Three strong mid-major teams in Kansas. Good test for Courtney Deifel and company. So some good softball in that region this week. Yeah,
absolutely. And speaking of, solid mid-majors too, Grand Canyon is number one in our mid-major rankings after, Troy gave Omaha its first loss of the season, Omaha the previous number one. And Justin McLeod talked with pitcher Abby Lovell as well. So take a look at that on the social channels too. But these programs we talked about the California mid-majors and specifically what they did at Mary Nutter, but these programs are tough. They are tough. And so I'm very curious to see for those tournaments where they are hosting, okay, there's some solid mid-majors here that are in our rankings or not, but just very competitive. I'm curious to see how it plays out too.
I'll give you the stat. Every year since the 2019 NCAA tournament, every year there's been at least a mid-major team that's cracked to the super regionals, except one year, which was 2024. That was a year where 10 mid-major teams made the regional final. The point is they're going to make noise in May. It's just a matter of where it's coming from. And usually we try to break them down here on D1Softball pretty in depth. And usually if you follow us pretty closely, you pretty much will have an idea who that could be come May.
Yes, and we do have one of my favorite things that we do outside of just the mid-major rankings to put a spotlight on the team is we do have mid-major national awards every week. So this week, a few different programs who were represented. Brianna Stanley from Wofford. She hit .571, 4 home runs, 13 RBIs, slugging over 1.5. So there's that. Allie Floyd from La Tech, 2-0 record in the circle, 14 strikeouts and 20 innings pitched, but an 11-inning complete game. So pretty impressive stamina there, really. Megan Sturzer from Utah Valley hit a grand slam as her first career home run, and she hit over 600 with 8 RBIs as well on the weekend. So just some examples of some of the talent that we're talking about from the mid-majors.
I'll point out Allie Floyd at Louisiana Tech. Liberty young this year, has had some early struggles. They're still the favorites in Conference USA, but if they're vulnerable, and you're looking for a team that could possibly knock them out in Conference USA, Allie Floyd and La Tech is a team to watch.
That's right. And our overall weekly awards on the national scale too, some fantastic performances, some of which we've already talked about. So you see Tegan Kavan in the middle from Texas, the 3 ranked wins, because she beat Arizona twice, by the way, and Stanford. 1.31 ERA with 19 strikeouts and 16 innings pitched. Opponents hit 179 against her. So she's dealing. And then, of course, Kendall Wells on the left from Oklahoma, 6 home runs, which now leads the SEC overall. That was just 6 home runs on the weekend. Overall leads the SEC in that category. 13 RBIs, hit over 400. And, we mentioned the offense in Mary Nutter, and Oklahoma still led in long balls despite the upset loss to Long Beach State. They still were really bringing it and hit 7 against A&M to end their weekend, by the way. And then, of course, Caitlin Pelosi from Alabama, first perfect game as a freshman and 10th overall in program history, as we mentioned, against Elon. So, again, just a snapshot at the talent.
Spoiler, Oklahoma has talent.
Yeah.
They might have the best freshman in the country, Kendall Wells, right now, probably the front runner for National Freshman of the Year. She's incredible.
And that's the thing, too. It's like, yes, they were upset. Okay, I don't think it's time to panic by any means. No. The 4-peat that's not normal. That's not how a program typically works. I mean, maybe back in the day in the 90s when you're talking about UCLA, sure. But recently, that is abnormal. They're still in the top 5 in our rankings and still competitive across the board. By no means are they out of it. So I don't think Sooner fans should panic. And I think in a general sense, softball fans can't count them out. I think we should know that by now.
Yeah, they'll be fine. Yeah. Trust the process with them there. Yeah.
Right. Well, so much good softball that has happened, so much good softball coming up, but we're really excited for our interview today with Emma Mazzarone. So let's head into it. We're so excited for today's guest, Virginia Tech pitcher and two-time All-ACC honoree, Emma Mazzarone. Emma, thank you for joining us in the middle of a crazy season. We appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited.
It has been exciting to watch you pitch so far this season. You're off to a good start. I'll just jump right in. I mean, pacing the best in your career in ERA and strikeouts so far this season. You got a win versus both South Carolina and Georgia, so a couple of ranked teams. Just what has your mindset and approach been so far this year?
I think at the beginning of the year, me and Coach Josh talked about like our end goal for the season, and obviously everyone wants to go to the World Series. And I think that the beginning of the year, the fall, jumping like straight into things, and we have a bigger pitching staff this year, and with losing Lem. And, big players like Corey and Bree Peck, like our senior class, like we had a lot of girls that were like willing to step up and, get excited. And Coach Pete had talked to me about taking on like a much bigger role pitching and hitting. So just trying to do the best I can with the staff that we have. And, Bree right behind me too has made it a lot easier, but it's been good.
You mentioned obviously the graduation of Emma Lemley. What did you learn from her, being her teammate, and that you've certainly applied to your own game? Not necessarily your own style of pitching, but just now you're the leader, if you will, of this pitching staff.
Mm-hmm. I think she had just a completely different mindset than I've seen before and that I've played with. Like we were good friends and like bullpen practice time, if it was game time, you didn't talk to her, you didn't see her, she was just kind of like locked in her zone with her headphones on. And I think just to like see that like switch in someone is like obviously everyone wants to pitch like Lem, but just to see how she like goes about things was a big thing for me to take away from her, just what she does every day too, not just with practice and stuff. But
the Emmas.
Yeah, the Emmas. We say Lem and Maz. That's what we say.
There you go. That's how you distinguish. Yeah. Totally makes sense. But, you're also forging your own path, right? So it's balancing like, okay, I learned things from her, but then I'm also putting my own spin on this and take on this as an upperclassman. Mm-hmm. And I know that your squad talks about the next one up mentality. Mm-hmm. Can you just dive into what that means to you and the team?
I think we all have our own goals for ourselves to start with. So, like, I have my own personal goals, and wherever that leads me, like, within the team is what I, like, feel I should be able to do, So, I think just, like, learning from everyone else and trying to not one-up everyone, but stick right there with them or do better than them. Like, when you're playing with people that hit over 400 every game or Lem last year that throws 2 perfect games in a row, like you want to do that, right? So just kind of mimicking and mirroring what I can do better within myself to get the results that they did.
Well, you all have been very good on the road there. I don't know if you're winning and trying to win the STC title there, because you go to start the season at South Carolina, take a couple from them. You go to Athens, take a couple from Georgia. What's been the mindset on the road there? And I'm curious, as one of the returners, is there an added motivation from almost not hosting last year and sending a message?
It's definitely sending a message. And when we walked off the field on Sunday, Coach Pete said, we belong in the conversation. And I think that is totally valid. Our offense is crazy good. Our pitching staff is like, we're just always trying to prove something. And I think like, when we have the edge on our shoulder of that is like we came out of the gates at South Carolina just like trying to blaze them down, like not holding back. And when we carry that on to like each game that we play, I'm just super excited to see the rest of the season, what this group does. But
how do you balance that, having that edge, maybe a chip on your shoulder to help you, but then also staying present, right? And not getting too far ahead of yourself and staying relaxed, playing freely?
We just go pitch to pitch most of the time. Like a lot of the games that we've played, we get punched first. We're 1-0, like in the first inning. And we're just like pitch by pitch, one batter at a time. Like for me, pitching, that's all I can think about is like focus on one pitch and that's it. Like when I'm playing, we don't think about anything else. But after we're done playing, that's a different story.
Speak of the rest of your pitchers, because it's not just you. You've got obviously Bree, who's off to a 3-0 start. You got Avery late in there. Just talk about you as a staff. How would you describe this pitching staff?
I mean, I think we're all very different, which plays a big role into like when we're playing a 5-game weekend series, So like Avery throws very hard. She's a freshman. She came in just like ready to roll. And Bree from last year is just like astronomically different in the way that she pitches. I mean, she's starting to throw a lot harder. She spins the ball like I've never seen. And when I'm hitting against her, I'm like, just please help me. But I'm so proud of her. She's done great. And then we have Fish and Cass and Sophie, and Sophie's a veteran too, so she's starting to take on like a bigger chunk, and just great. A lot of different options, I think.
Sort of expanding on that, what about the relationship you all have with your catchers and that total bullpen feel?
Well, I can tell you Zoe and me are not very friendly sometimes. I'm just kidding. But Zoe, Mia, Kylie, all of them, I mean, they're in the bullpen as much as like we are. So, I mean, we're pretty close with them. Our whole team's very close with each other. So, I mean, we do everything together off the field too. So we're a pretty close-knit group, I think.
All right, I need you to set the record straight. I talked to your head coach, Pete Demore, on my podcast back in November, and he swore that you've touched low to mid-70s at times. Yeah. Okay, so he's not messing with me. He's telling the truth. How hard? What's the fastest you've ever thrown?
The first pitch of the fall was 74. But I haven't hit it again. I haven't hit it again since then. But I mean, I stay around like low 70s, I think. In practice, it's a little different, but in a game. But yeah, he's not lying about that one.
Okay, just making sure. You've hit the low 70s in the regular season during a game.
Yep.
Do you know it when you hit it? Do you feel it?
No, I don't know. They actually try to tell me to throw like smoother, so I'm not like so amped and trying to gas it up, But I like to throw hard.
Oh, come on. We like to watch it, right?
Yeah,
also, yeah. I love how nonchalant you were when Eric asked that, and you're just like, yeah, for sure. Done that. Check. I am her. I love that mentality that you just had.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you said it too. You're a two-way player, which is one of my favorite things in this sport. So you're in the box too, facing your pitchers, which is a different type of role, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you feel like is the most challenging part of contributing on both sides, and also the most rewarding part?
I would say the most challenging part is definitely the practice aspect to it, because I mean, I throw like in season, I throw my bullpens in the morning, and then I go back after class and I hit with the rest of the team. So it's like a lot of stuff on my own too. Like if I feel like I'm not where I need to be, I go in and hit on my own, because like sometimes I have to pitch while they're hitting, and it's just kind of complicated sometimes. But the most rewarding part though, I mean, it like when I get to hit in a game and then I like go on the field and pitch, I like get on both sides of the ball, and that's definitely my favorite part. I like to be in the game like at all times. But I begged them to let me play outfield, but they wouldn't let me.
Well, I guess they want to keep you healthy. I'm guessing is there. But you mentioned being a two-way player. Do you feel you hitting helps you more being a pitcher, or do you pitching actually helps you being a hitter? Which one it benefits more?
I think like having the mindset of a pitcher while I'm hitting helps, because I can think through what they're good at. Like I know what I can and can't hit, and I'm sure they know from scouts and things like that. So like just thinking through the process of what pitchers think, then like while I'm in the box. I mean, the same thing for catchers too. Like it's just a different side of the ball, and when you get that in your brain, it's a lot easier to like comprehend, I guess. So.
And how do you think And what I mean by that is, are you the type that gets a little bit more analytical? You kind of get down into the weeds, or are you the type that kind of clears the noise in your head before you compete?
I would say hitting. I definitely don't think about anything while I hit, except for when I get out of the box. Then I'll start thinking through my bat. But pitching wise, I do get a little analytical, I guess you would say. You know, Coach, I don't know if y'all have spoken with Coach Josh before, but he is like on his analytics stuff. So when he goes through that and like we're going through types of swings, things like that, like I do think about that when I'm pitching, but it's nothing crazy, I wouldn't say.
All right. So you earlier said Pete was telling me the truth on the podcast that you throw hard. Let's see if he's telling me the truth here. And it's told me that you actually, when you get a hold of a ball, you're actually one of the strongest hitters, that you can hit it far for a home run. Is that accurate? Or who would you say is the strongest hitter on the team that could go the deepest if we had a long distance contest here?
I'm like a 1 in 10 on that. So he's not totally lying, but Nora Abramovich, she's hit the ball further than I've ever seen anyone hit it. She probably hit a ball like, I think in the fall, over TrackMan, she hit a ball like 250 something, like 255. Just absolutely like smoked it. But yeah.
What's the furthest you've hit?
I would go like maybe like 40s. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at it, but I mean, I can't hit the ball far. I just have to hit it first.
That helps.
Yeah, it does help. Yeah.
And that's still pretty far.
Completely different, you know. But
totally.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Nora and just your offense in general that you're a part of, but then you also rely on as a pitcher. I mean, Nora's top 10 in the ACC in home runs and RBIs. Jordan Lynch is hitting nearly 500. We could name a whole bunch of people on your squad. What is it like seeing your teams swing it, knowing they have your back?
I mean, against Georgia, I think it was 2-0, and I came in the dugout, and Jordan looks at me and she goes, "We got you. We're good." Like, and I'm like, I know that, like you don't have to tell me, but I mean, just like having that while I'm pitching, it makes me feel a lot better, and I don't know, I know they have my back, and they know too, so.
It's pretty good. Let's talk about your upbringing. What got you into playing softball? Did you play other sports? And what got you in the end of the day going to playing softball?
I've played softball since I played t-ball. So, I mean, I've always played. Started playing travel when I was 11 or 10 maybe. So, I mean, I've played my whole life. I played volleyball a lot. I love volleyball. Wasn't allowed to play basketball after middle school, but I'm fine with that. And yeah, I played softball my whole life. So I played for Lady Lightning and travel, and then after I committed, I played like locally for a while. So
do you think it was the pitching part of softball that made you want to stick with this for the long term?
I actually committed to Tech to hit, so I didn't think I was going to come here and pitch, and then all of a sudden I just like got way better at it, so
take it.
But, yeah, I'll take it.
Well, I remember that. I think Coach DeBoer's told me the story. He saw how you threw, and he's like, you gotta pitch with that arm. It's a gift of art. Do you remember that moment when you all decided, oh, you're gonna pitch here? Because you're right. He just said that you were recruited to hit, but then they saw your arm, and it's like, hey, you might want to try pitching.
Yeah, well, so we were at the PGF tournament, I think in California, and we were playing a really good team, and my coach was like, "All right, you're going to pitch." And I was like, "Oh my gosh," because it's like the second game I pitched of the day. And I was like, "Okay, whatever." And my mom comes up to me after, and I pitched great. I hit terrible, but I pitched good. So I was like, whatever. Cancels each other out, I guess. And my mom came up to me after, and she was like, you hit 69 in that game. And I was like, what? I was like, what are you talking about? And then the next morning, Coach Pete calls me, and he's like, hey, like, we're going to have you pitch too, and, you know, you can be on both sides of the ball. And I was like, all right, cool. So I was just kind of go with the flow with it. I mean, I was excited about it, but I've pitched my whole life, but I definitely am a fan of hitting more. So
That's something I always like to ask two-way players like you is what do you like better? But also, do you consider yourself a hitter who pitches or a pitcher who hits?
in this circumstance, a pitcher who hits because the whole lineup hits 400. So,
Yeah.
But just in this circumstance.
That's too funny. What's it like playing for Coach DeMore?
I think with him is what you see is what you get. So, I mean, he's just like all the time super chill at a steady line most of the time. So, I mean, he's like my friend and then my coach,
Mm-hmm.
But there's a very fine line, if you know what I mean. Like he's like serious at practice, but
that's not an easy line to walk if you're a coach. So people who are good at it definitely stand out for sure.
Yeah. But me and the girls were just talking today about how like our coaches are like one in a million, like they're just, I don't know, just very chill. I like them a lot.
I actually had a chance to see you all play in person in Blacksburg last year. First time I'd ever been out there. It was for the Florida State series that you all hosted at the end of ACC play. And the experience was really cool. I had heard great things about how the fans are. Hokie Nation just felt so invested in you all. How do you describe it from your perspective?
I mean, we have a crazy fan base in general for Virginia Tech, like any sport. And I think they all kind of melt into each other. So, like when we're playing Florida State in a weekend series and you look up and there's thousands of people watching you and then they're like all on the backside of the stadium. I mean, it's just like a out of body like experience. I can't even look up there when I'm pitching because I'm like, oh my gosh. But I mean, after the game, like they all come up and they'll like talk to us. We know like a bunch of them, and they come to like there's a group that came down to Georgia this weekend, just to watch. They don't have anyone on the team. So I think that that's just really special to have when you're, like playing D1Softball. It's like, that's not, I don't know if that's rare or not, but here it's pretty cool to see and have. So
now you're not hosting the ACC tournament. Virginia's hosted it, but is that like if you can't host, is that the next best thing? Because I know it's your rival, but it is in the state of Virginia. It's a bus trip, but you're gonna have a lot of fans there. Is that something you all think about as a goal? Because I know you were so close to that ACC title. That's part of your goals there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it definitely helps, not riding on a bus for however long to get to where we're going, or to Cal or Stanford. I don't really know if that's allowed, if they're allowed to host the ACC tournament or not. But, I mean, getting on a plane, anything definitely helps. And there's a lot of Hokies in the Charlottesville area, so I'm sure that'll help it out too. But yeah.
And what are the conversations like with this team for the bigger goals, whether that's conference, postseason, etc.?
We have the end goal of go to the World Series, win the World Series, and then we have the like mini goals to get to that. And I think like it's a super like mentally sound team. So I think we're really good at like piecing together those little goals, just kind of chipping away each weekend at what we want in the end. And it's not like too big or too small, you know what I mean? Like we're just super in the moment, getting with it. So
I love to hear that, because a lot of people are like, well, how do you get there, right? And it is those smaller goals. So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah.
Do you set yourself with your own personal goals?
Yeah, so all the everyone in the fall at the beginning will set their own goals. We have something called Swim Buddies, and we wrote down our goals and put them in their locker. So our swim buddies keep us accountable every day for those goals and what we do every day to work towards them. So I think that's a good thing, is you're having someone kind of push you towards, you can't really fall away off of what your end goal is for the year. So
I feel like routines would be an important part of that.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, what is your game day routine? What do you like to eat? What's your playlist like? What are you up to?
I'm not really a superstitious person, I would say, but like the first weekend I was pretty like amped, and I was like, all right, I just listened to like Bob Marley on the way in the bus, and I was trying to be super chill and like I'm like, it's okay, it's not that big of a deal. But like if I'm really amped, I'll listen to Bob Marley. That's about the only thing that'll calm me down.
Well, that's pretty good. That Bob Marley rep. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Who on the team? Here's a hot question for you. Who on the team is the prankster? Who's the one that cracks the joke? With who's the go-to when somebody needs to lighten the moment here? They're the ones to go to for cracking the joke.
I would definitely say Nora Abramovich or Zoe Yeager. They're both like Zoe's more like she's the class clown, and then Nora is like the like she'll get on your nerves sometimes about it, but she'll make you laugh. That's for sure.
She annoys you with a purpose.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Well, the last one from me is this. If you were to face yourself hitting as yourself pitching, what do you think the result would be? What would the outcomes be?
I don't think it would go over well for me hitting, honestly. I always think that, like in live, I'm like, oh, everyone gets to hit off of me. Like I want to hit off myself, like see what it looks like, But just from like, I don't know, visualization, I guess, I think I would get sauced if I was hitting off myself.
It might depend on the day, too.
It would depend on the day, yes, but from both sides. So.
Are you throwing over 70 against yourself?
Probably. I have this thing,
sure.
like certain batters for me is like when I see this or I don't know, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, nah, we're just gonna gas it up right here.
That's why you gotta listen to Bob Marley. You have to calm down. I get it. I'm putting it together now.
Yeah. So.
Well, it's been awesome watching you so far, and there's so much season left still. It seems like a good amount of games under your guys' belt, but then also plenty of more to come. And we appreciate you joining, especially in one of the busiest times of year as we continue on, and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Thank y'all for having me. It was fun.
I don't know about you, Eric, but actually talking with players and coaches, but I think especially players, it's just one of my favorite parts of the job, to just getting a glimpse into what they actually do from a day to day. We're covering all these teams from all over the place, all over the country, but the individuals, it's like, what are they doing in the grind? So I just love getting a glimpse into it.
I agree. It was good to get to know Emma, who I've heard from talking to Coach DeMore, and she's a big piece of their success. But Virginia Tech right back in the mix. Some people wonder with some of the losses they had, you graduate Emma Lemley, what are they going to look like? Oh, just in. They're going to be in the mix. That's what Pete DeMore teams do. They've been impressive on the road, winning at South Carolina opening weekend twice, winning it twice at Georgia. I don't care who's pitching for Georgia. I know that they didn't have everybody, whatever available. I don't care. Virginia Tech is going to be a team in the mix. And I do think there's a chip on that shoulder from them. They felt they were hosed from hosting last year. That drives motivation for those returners, and they've got talent. And they're going to be a team in the mix there for the ACC championship all year. And Emma's fun to watch. I mean, the two-way. I love two-way players, and she's fun, and she's got a great arm. And it's, I think she's got a shot to be in the mix for the ACC Pitcher of the Year. She keeps throwing the way she has so far.
I love that she said if she hit against herself that she'd get sauced. That was just so real and relatable. Yeah. And I just appreciated the realness there from that.
It's true. Very true.
Very funny.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, of course, we do have as well one of our favorite parts of every week, and that is our plays of the week. So mine is from Mary Nutter, and I actually did get to see this in person up close. I was in the front row when this happened. It's a walk-off. It was a comeback. It was a rematch, and it was a full circle moment. And I'm talking about Alina Garcia walking it off against South Carolina for UCLA. Let's watch. So many layers to why this was play of the week for me. Of course, all the things that I already mentioned. But, you know, she brought in the tying and winning runs, of course, in the bottom of the seventh. That's Bruin Magic. We've seen it before. We saw it against South Carolina in Supers last year. And I think it's the obvious excitement of the late inning heroics. But with that sort of rematch added on to it, that just adds some more texture to it, right? The last interview that I did with Alina was actually at Mary Nutter last year before she got hurt and ultimately had to redshirt for the season. When I talked to her before we actually recorded our interview, she remembered the exact game, the exact field that we did talk last time. And she now has made her way back. So I want us also to just take a listen to her words from that conversation.
We are here with Alina Garcia after a massive comeback. Bruin Magic back at it again. You brought in the winning runs against South Carolina. What was going through your head and this team? What was the energy like?
We knew that the game was already written. Like the way the whole game happens after the error I made in that inning and then scoring the 4 runs, like it was already written. There's a script, and if like my faith was as strong as it can be in that moment, I was just praying and knowing that my team's gonna have my back, and they did. And there we go. You saw the results.
And for you, it wasn't that long after this tournament last year that your freshman year was cut a little bit short with your injury. What is it like being back and then, of course, having a moment like that?
Not easy. Not the easiest thing if I'm being really honest, but the way that this team has my back and the love that the coaches and my teammates have for me, it's making it easier than it should be. And it's just working every day, knowing that what it felt like without having softball. So just being really grateful for every moment that I get to step on this field.
Can you give us a glimpse into what it's like to be a part of the Bruin bubble?
It's hard to describe. You can't really know unless you're in it, but it's unconditional love, no matter the results. Like unconditional love, excitement for each other, love that just spread like no other. I don't even know how to describe it, but love and family.
There you go. And also Lisa Fernandez, the GOAT's reaction in the video that we saw, just the purity of it and how fired up she was, like added the cherry on top.
Amazing stuff. I know one group, though, that will not enjoy it at all, and that is South Carolina and Ashley Chastain Woodard and Company. I cannot believe that happened again after what transpired last year in Game 2 in the Super Regional. I don't think South Carolina wants to see anything about UCLA anytime soon.
Agreed.
On that one. So the odds of that, what are the odds of that happening again? Is just nuts.
Yeah. Well, I want to see your play of the week now, too.
Well, this play of the week got a lot of people's attention of a possible upset, and that's one Lisa Apodaca of Long Beach State with a big swing against Oklahoma.
They've taken advantage of opportunities. Oklahoma's left a few outs on the field, a few miscues.
That's back there. That is gone! The moment of the tournament. It's a Mary Nutter mammoth for Long Beach State.
This is what the sport is all about.
Oh, that was courtesy of the Flow Softball College there, covering the Mary Nutter tournament there. That was Apodaca's 3-run homer in the 6th inning. Long Beach State goes up 6-2. They would go on to beat Oklahoma 6-4. That was the moment, right? Whether you were watching the game, following the game, or maybe you had it on the tracker. Yeah, Long Beach is ahead, but right, that's everybody's head. I think when that hit took place and the score flipped to 6-2, isn't that? I feel like that's when everybody all of a sudden like, oh, maybe we need to check this out here. What's going to happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was in the bottom of the 6th, right? All of a sudden you're like, it's going into the 7th. OU's down to their last outs, and she's just a sophomore. It was the only extra base hit for Beach in the entire game. And when I did talk with Kendall Fern after the game, she talked about just like the true team effort, 4 different players with RBIs. Obviously, we just saw some of the RBIs right there. Defense locked in, pitching got it done. And she really emphasized how they're focusing on process and preparation for those big moments like that. Also, Lena is from my hometown in Camarillo. She's also a CIF state champ. So shout out to the 805. If you know, you know.
I know now. That's the deal. Hey, big win for Kendall Fern. I love the hire in the offseason after Kim Souter retired. Kendall Fern, longtime assistant under Shauna Stanton. Really love that hire. I love the fit. I like her staff that she's built there with Tyler Heil there as part of the staff. I think they're going to be a big success at Long Beach there. Again, Long Beach, Cal State Fullerton, circle it, Big West. It's going to be pretty good, but a great start, great moment for them.
Absolutely. Some wins within the wins, certainly those moments, but we do have our official win and whiff of the week. I will start us with our win of the week. And this is just big picture for softball in general as a sport. And it's the collegiate teams getting a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to play Team Japan, who is #1 ranked in the world. It's an irreplaceable experience. And you know what? They dominated everybody, but they should, right? They're the #1 team in the world. But getting to see these teams have these moments is a win in itself. And so let's look at an example.
What a clash we have for you tonight. Team Japan, the #1 ranked team in the world, takes on the Rutgers Scarlet Knights.
Just really cool to see them in person and see these teams that got this opportunity. I mean, they beat Rutgers 14-0 at the end of the day, but the Scarlet Knights getting some of those, okay, base hit, strikeout here. If you're a pitcher, like getting that and getting to have that moment, super special. And Texas Tech, Riverside, Hawaii, and LMU also got to play Team Japan. And Team Japan did outscore everybody 47-2. They run-ruled everyone except Texas Tech. So they were dominant, as we'd expect from the back-to-back Olympic gold medalists in both Tokyo most recently and then Beijing back in 2008.
Did I see you take a selfie with the legend herself, Yukiko Bueno, the gold medalist, Japanese pitcher? Great.
Yes.
That's pretty
you did.
Good.
It was honest. And I know I have my media hat on typically, but my, young softball fan who was watching back in 2008 when she helped them win the gold medal was like, you know what, this might be a once in a lifetime for me to get to meet some of these players as well. So I did. And she's now in her 40s. She was a part of that.
She's still going.
She always threw hard, and she still does, by the way. But as she got older, she also developed her movement even more, and just the longevity that she has is crazy. It is so cool to see. And Miyu Goto also was important for gold in Tokyo for Team Japan, and she's just in her 20s. So seeing, both of them contributing to the team like that is pretty cool. And, I got to talk with Taraya Flowers from LMU about maybe what it reminds her of from her USA days.
At the Mary Nutter here with head coach of LMU, Taraya Flowers. A few nice wins over Power 4 teams. What are you most proud of with this squad?
I think we did a good job of just coming out and competing, right? It's a little unsure. It's a big deal, big tournament. They all came here when they were younger. Just the atmosphere is a little bit different, and I thought we did a good job of staying within ourselves and playing our game.
and also getting to compete against Team Japan. Did that bring back memories for you from USA, even seeing Yukiko Ueno out there?
I know, it did. It's funny because our players kept asking, is the 50-year-old? I'm like, she's not 50, stop it, don't throw that out there. But they were like, man, that ball's moving, and she can just gas it up when she wants to. So it was great experience. It's one of those kind of once in a lifetime for a lot of our players, and so for them to come out and get to see what high-level softball looks like, it was just exciting.
And you've been a part of so many different parts of the sport, collegiately, of course, internationally, professional, all of it. What is important to you when it comes to growing this game?
I think just playing the game the right way and enjoying it, and it's the experiences as you go. So when you're playing the game correctly, you have good intentions, you're just reaching out to people, the game pays you back. And I've been fortunate to be around some really amazing people, and yes, I remember the game, and I love that it's different. I can see the line of people, little girls getting autographs right now, and so I love seeing that piece of it, but being able to enjoy it, I think that's the best part.
Fired up for LA 2028. I'll say that.
It's going to be fun. I look forward to it too. The U.S. usually does a tour too, leading up to the Olympics. That'll be fun.
Right. It's like, okay, gets you excited for Team USA, maybe playing some of the teams and getting to see them do it for sure. All right, Eric, I will let you lead us into the whiff of the week.
Well, Jenna, this week is Judy Garman Classic, a great tournament led by a marquee game, UCLA, Florida. It's a great game to watch, right? One problem. Yeah, there is no stream or linear at all for UCLA, Florida. There's no linear or stream for the Judy Garman Classic for any of the games that do not involve Cal State Fullerton. Jenna, you played. This is once a marquee tournament, and now we can't watch the game. This Florida UCLA is the marquee game probably of this weekend, and nobody will be able to watch it. You can listen to it if you listen to the Gator audio broadcast, but that's it, Jenna. I just don't understand this. We're in 2026. How does this happen?
To see TV not broadcasted in the middle there on the screenshot from the Florida schedule, it does hurt a little bit, right? I mean, and we have multiple instances of this happening. This is really just one example, is this particular matchup. It is the 21st year of the Judy Garman Classic that's hosted at Cal State Fullerton. You said it, the Fullerton games will be on ESPN+, but just not all the games. And I want to acknowledge that, resources are sometimes limited. There was a time, including when I played, where you never got streams, and it was only the postseason where you'd get some TV games. So the demand, though, is there. So the demand itself is a win, that this is even something that we're bummed about as fans because the demand is so high.
It is, especially, I'll speak here, the UCF. We've broadcasted every tournament game of all three UCF tournaments, the non-UCF games and the UCF games, including this week, which has, Wagner and has the Dartmouth. So it's not like we're just highlighting high-profile games, and every school appreciates that exposure.
Yep.
And we've gotten a lot of great feedback. So UCF's made it able to work. I understand if there is financial consideration for all this, but there's other schools like Arizona and FAU, for example, that for the non-games that they host tournament-wise, they just put a camera on and stream it without a broadcast. At least give us that. To me, to have nothing is, especially for that tournament with the cachet that it has. My concern, Jenna, is with the lack of coverage there, with all the options you have as a fan now, the tournament gets hurt by that, because now people are like, well, I'm just going to watch the tournament in Arkansas. I'm going to watch games here. I'm going to have all these other options. And Judy Garman gets forgotten about because it's not being broadcasted. I would hate to see that happen. So I hope they figure this out. At some point, it used to be streamed. They have to figure it out because, again, it's a market. UCLA, Florida, there's going to be a lot of people that want to see that game and won't be able to unless you're literally in person.
Yeah, and UCLA is not playing Fullerton in the tournament. They will be at the tournament. They're not playing them. So none of their games, for example, are streamed. And it's just, again, it goes back to, we want to see as much softball as possible. There are so many games. We want to see it. We're especially fans today, we got multiple screens up so we can watch multiple games at once. Again, the demand is there.
And it's not just them picking on them. It's just everybody. I think they should look into it, see if you can stream games and tournaments, even if your team is not involved. I'm not saying you have to break out the budget, but I think the demand is there, Jenna. I think the sport has grown to the point where it's not really people it's unacceptable if you don't show games. It's 2026, it's not 1996.
Yeah. Shout out to the radio coverage that will still be there. So Florida in this example, who will be there. Fortune. And we talked about Varsity Network, the app. You can listen to some of those radio broadcasts and utilize Learfield in these situations, which I do appreciate that that's there.
Amen. From that. Touche.
But in terms of what's next, where we're all going to be, I am going to be locked into watching as many games as possible. I may do some baseball broadcasting, so I'll be cheating on softball a little bit, but I will still be locked in and pulling everything up on my screens. And Eric, I know you're calling another UCF tournament, right?
Yes. First of all, be careful when you flirt with baseball. I did this last week, and I ended up calling a 13-inning game and didn't get back home till 3:30 a.m. Eastern. So be careful, Jenna, when you go to the other side.
To me. So we'll see. The games are already longer than softball as it is, let alone when they go extras and stuff. So
that's all I'm saying. And I was down in Coral Gables for that. So that was a unique experience busing back. Late night. Yes, I've got a lot of UCF games this week. Yes, UCF's got another tournament this week. Bunch of teams there. All the games, every game, Jenna, on ESPN Plus. I won't be on all of the broadcasts, but I will be on the UCF broadcast. Alex Powers will be on every broadcast. She has not missed one broadcast. I believe by my math, she's going to end up doing like 40-some games before this weekend. By the time this weekend's done,
in 4 weeks, that's wild.
Just 4 weeks. She's the Iron Woman, as Tony Baldwin has referred to her.
She really is
on that. And then her and I are calling UCF Florida Atlantic Wednesday night. So I got to get going. But depending on soon in a few minutes, that's going to be a big march up there. But yeah, we'll be at UCF throughout. Should be a fun tournament, and obviously keeping an eye on everything that's going on elsewhere.
Yeah, well, I'll be tuning into some of those. And I know Justin McLeod, who is also guest co-hosted here and, of course, heads up our editorial efforts for D1Softball. He's planning to be at the Arkansas tournament that you mentioned that will have Omaha, Boise State, Charlotte, and Kansas. That's going to be a good one. I'm excited to hear his insights. And then your other co-host for In the Circle, Victor Anderson, Eric, what's he going to be up to?
What? He's always up to something, right? He's going to be calling games all throughout the state. I think there could be some he might be calling some D2 softball this weekend, a nationally ranked Tampa team. So he dabbles a little D2 and he mixes it up with D1 as well. And then more importantly, producing and editing the In the Circle of D1Softball podcast. Spoiler, we're going to have another late night recording with Mike Hurd. The Omaha head coach will be on the show and scheduled to have Ruby Malin on the Thursday edition of that show. So those are the things he's going to be involved with, doing some softball and then at late night editing.
Well, that's plenty on his plate, if you ask me. And for everybody who stuck with us this long, we do have a treat for you, and that is a discount code. Yes, you get one. So it is season 26 is the code for monthly and annual subscriptions. That's to get 25% off if you sign up. I can't really stress just how much content there is, especially from our editorial team, the writers putting together what we learned after the weekend and even daily dozens throughout the weekend to summarize what's going on all throughout the country. And it is just a ton of wonderful content and a way to stay up to speed on everything. So season 26 for 25% off. Well, you know what, Eric? Thank you. This was really fun. We have co-hosted some things before the lives, but to have you on the D1Softball podcast specifically, this was really cool to have you.
Hopefully I did a good enough job to be asked back, but if I'm not asked back, I understand completely.
You did. I'll tell you right now. We're good. We're cool. Well, thank you everybody for joining us and keep us updated on what you want us to talk about, what you want us to bring up, and we would love to, but we'll see you next time.